Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And one of my subscribers awared me on the Facebook fan page that Jeff Nippard made a video about isolating the pecs. Now, a lot of you are going to say, Jason, you're going to be biased in this. Guilty as charged. Of course I'm going to be biased. And you know what? We're all biased. Everyone's training background and goals are going to bias our viewpoints on what we do. Even if you're an amazing coach, your experience and your viewpoint and your perspective is going to bias the way that you interpret data. And here's what I would say right up front. That the title of his video alone has bias in it. People would say, well, what do you mean? Well, I would say that anyone who even believes it's possible, that it's even physically impossible, let alone desirable, to attempt to isolate a muscle carries its own set of bias, right? Because such an idea works off the bias that it's even possible. We know physiologically, and Jeff even knows this, he's had enough conversations with enough physiology experts that he even knows you can't actually isolate a muscle. It can't actually be done. At least maybe it could maybe be done under certain strict laboratory conditions where you lock someone, strap them down to where you can immobilize everything but one joint and then use electrodes to isolate a muscle. It could in theory be done in that environment, but you can't consciously do it. You can't isolate your bicep trying to do a concentration curl with all your might. You just can't do it. You can't remove the front delt. You can't remove the forearms. So it's not really possible, but the question we come to the idea that it's even desirable carries its own set of bias. But you know what? I'm willing to actually, in the name of objectivity, set that to the side when kind of talking about this video and say, okay, well, let's assume that there's a hypothetical need for what we're discussing here from a programming perspective. Because I could think of some extremely rare individuals that might want to do a small direct movement for their pecs, right? Or at least a portion of their pec. I can create a hypothetical individual. The odds that any one of you listening will at any point ever be that individual is actually pretty small. Because it's, again, we're dealing with a hypothetical person. And there are probably a few that exist, but they're going to be relatively rare in the training community. So we need to put that in perspective. And what I appreciate with what Jeff did, I might not always like Jeff. I might not always agree with Jeff on everything. In fact, I disagree with him pretty often. I will at least give credit where credit is due that Jeff does have a certain ability to set aside his bias better than most, right? None of us completely do it. He's actually pretty good at putting aside his bias and trying to be reasonably objective. He's better than most at it. Most of the guys on YouTube Fitness, right? And I think anyone who's watching stuff can agree with that. He actually does a decent job of it, better than most of us. But he actually states up front, well, honestly, I think the best way to build a big chest is the bench press and the weighted dip. And that's almost what I want to just echo and be like, you know what? You're damn right, Jeff, and I agree. We're in perfect agreement there. And that's the interesting thing. He and I are coming from different areas of the fitness world, different backgrounds, different goals, and both of us are going to agree on that point. However, what he points out, maybe you have a person who is struggling with chest development, or more importantly, just specifically maybe their upper chest development, in which case maybe there is a need to do some sort of fly, and he would lean in the direction of a cable fly. Now, I would say, okay, I can see that hypothetically. Now, here's the point I'm going to make. I don't know anyone out there, and they probably exist, who actually needs more upper chest who doesn't want bigger triceps also. I don't think I've ever met anyone off the top of my head who said, you know what, all three heads of my tricep are so damn big that they look like footballs and I have little tiny titties. And I just got to bring my chest up and I need my triceps to stop growing. I don't really know this person, and I'm sure there's a few that exist. But let's come over to the point of training programming. So the whole idea here, and he points out that the pressing is in general going to build you a big chest, right? It's going to build you a big chest. Problem we run into is one of fatigue management and total volume. We kind of get into points of weak point training when we are running low on recovery resources. Because let's be realistic here, you can always continue to get a bigger chest with weighted dips in the bench press. You can. You can keep making it grow. Problem we get to, how much recovery can we handle, because we're moving a lot of tonnage. And even if you're going to step down to a lighter weight, oh, you drop down and do sets of 15 instead of 5. Okay, well, that's still an enormous amount of weight. That's an enormous amount of tonnage you have to recover from. We have finite recovery resources. And so at a certain point, you might need to say, okay, I got to bring down my total training volume. But I still need to specialize in that one area. Okay, maybe you're a physique competitor, something like that. Something I'm not a big fan of, but they do exist, and a few of them do watch YouTube. So we get to that point of saying, okay, so you might need to maybe do some sort of fly or a cable fly. I'll concede that point. And if you really needed to cut the tricep work out, okay, that's fair enough. The only problem is that half the jackasses who think they need flies go do tricep extensions. That doesn't make sense because we're dealing with total training volume and these other muscles involved and the workloads. You're negating that benefit. You should have just done some dips. Right? If you're going to do a fly and you're going to do a tricep extension in the same week, you should have just done more pressing. See, that's where we get to the point of it's redundant and it's stupid. Bad training economy, bad use of resources. You're going to be able to grow your chest on the others. The issue becomes one of disproportionate development relative to workload. So he says do a fly. Now, here's the added caveat I'm going to throw in. The only one of the flies I'm going to agree that has any merit is going to be the incline ones where you're coming up, where he talks about, again, rotating it in and you're trying to work your upper chest. People would say, why? Your upper chest is usually the only thing that's lagging. If your lower chest is lagging, you need to do more dips. Or you need to learn how to bench press correctly, right? That should not be a problem for you. Add another 30 pounds to your pause bench and learn how to bench correctly, and that problem goes away. So much so that the point is, he kind of pointed out a lot of people do the flies incorrectly. They don't pull the scapula. They're not in retraction. They're not down and back. Well, if you're correcting them on flies, if you made that same fix to their bench pressing and they start pause benching and they get in scapular retraction and they come down and pause, they're going to have big old teddies, right? They're going to have big teddies if they keep getting stronger at it. That same correction that he does make for the flies would actually fix people's bench. And if you're one of those people that's so arm dominant on the benching that it's not working, that even with that your chest is still lagging, that's where weighted dips come in. It is very difficult to get strong on both the bench press and the weighted dip, especially with that stretch reflex at the bottom. If you're going down deep enough on a weighted dip to get a myotatic reflex and you're getting stronger at it, your chest is going to grow. You add that into the bench press and you're not going to have a lagging chest other than maybe the upper chest. So we come over to the caveat. You have a guy whose lower chest is fine. He's got plenty of tricep. He doesn't care about any more tricep growth right now. He has limited recovery resources and he needs his upper chest to grow. I'll concede that, he's probably right. And the variation of the fly that he recommends with a cable will probably get the job done. However, I'm also going to point out, though, how much is this person working with on their standing press? Are they coming down and touching their chest on their standing press? Can they standing press at least 200 pounds? Right? Because, again, if you can standing press at least 200 pounds, if you're below that and your upper chest is lagging, there's still a big exercise that you need to program to fix it. But all in all, there can still be that person who has that lagging area, in which case, okay, it makes sense. But here's what I will say. I'll throw in the added caveat, if that person needs any more tricep development to go with that upper chest, I still don't think it makes sense to do the fly, in which case this is where I'll even flip over to a bodybuilding style movement. All right, I'll step away from strength athletes. If a person's upper chest is truly lagging, my first solution, if this other stuff doesn't work, I would still lean them in the direction of an incline dumbbell press. Done where you come all the way down on the incline dumbbell press and do lightweight with a lot of extra volume. A lot of training volume with scapular retraction and a deep stretch. I think for 90% of guys who have a lagging upper chest, I think that's the easiest fix before I would go to a fly. Again, assuming they don't have triceps that just overpower everything else, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. But I think a smaller movement like a dumbbell incline press, I still think is the best viable solution, unless, again, we're dealing with that one rare individual who their triceps are really strong, really big, their lower chest is growing, and they just can't seem to get the upper half of that chest to grow no matter what they do. In which case, I'll concede Jeff is probably right. Doing a cable fly, again, with focusing on even a squeeze and contraction and the mind-muscle connection, and you guys know I hate that. I'll concede that in that case, he's probably right. He's probably right. So if you're that rare individual that you're physique obsessed, you don't care about his performance as much, and you still better care about your performance because size equals strength. You have limited recovery resources to work with and nothing else is working for your chest. You fixed your bench form, you're in scapular retraction, you pause on your chest, you got your bench to at least 300. You can do weighted dips with a heavy weight. You can do a strict standing press with at least 200 pounds touching your chest, and you still can't get those upper teddies to grow. What he recommends as far as the cable fly goes, you know what? I'll say, okay, yeah, that person should probably do that. That's me being objective. As objective as I can. So that's kind of my take on what he said in the video. So I will kind of go back to his original point and say, though, I tend to agree with him, and we'll see eye to eye, that really the best way to build a big chest, pause benching, flat bench, weighted dips, right? That's going to build your chest. People who are going to need to specialize in this other stuff is actually going to be a relatively rare individual. Average person will never need to do this. And again, that's the take-home message of it. So that's what people need to remember. With specialized weak point training like this, it is done on a case-by-case basis. It shouldn't just be your default go-to exercise when you're trying to build some sort of base. But it does have its place. And if you are going to do some sort of specialized weak point training, you really should put some thought into it the way that Jeff did in this video. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.